And welcome back to Chicago Bulls Insider. Today we are talking about Josh Giddey contract updates. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Modest Buzelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it as we're talking about a couple of contract updates around Josh Giddey. And so this is the most recent contract update around Josh Giddey. This came out today. And so if you did not get a chance to see this, this is on ClutchPoints. This is written by Brett Siegel. And within this article, he's talking about various topics that are going on around the NBA. And so he talks about the Chicago Bulls and Josh Giddey into this one. And so let's go ahead and jump into what was said. And so it says that Josh Giddey and the Chicago Bulls are expected to reach a resolution on a new contract, likely in the 3-year range by the end of August. The Bulls could increase their offer, but they have stood firm on keeping a new deal in the 20 million AAV range. The latest speculation from agents not involved in negotiations suggests something in the 65 million to 70 million range. All right. And so once again, this came out today, and I think that this is pretty detailed. I think that this is probably the most detailed that we've seen around Josh Giddey and his contract negotiations with the Chicago Bulls, because number one, you get a likely in the 3-year range. And so this is the first time that I think we've seen something that is throwing out the years on a possible deal. And then next, you get the possible, date or, place where there could be a resolution, which is going to be the end of August. And then lastly, you get some more speculation from agents. So keyword speculation from agents not involved, throwing out some numbers at 65 million to 70 million. And so once again, speculations here, but I do think that this is an interesting one because you get a chance to see where the Bulls could likely be as far as the contract range, and then also to the resolution. And then also, too, you get a chance to see that the Bulls could increase their offer. And so I think that that's key, which we'll talk about that in a moment. The next thing that I wanted to take a look at was an actual contract update that came out a day before this one. And so this one was on Spotrac, and this was written by Keith Smith. And he does the same thing as Brett Siegel. So he's talking about various topics in the NBA, and he talks about the Chicago Bulls and Josh Giddey. And so this is what he had to say. So he says that Josh Giddey and the Chicago Bulls seem the most likely to stay together, but are reportedly apart on contract terms. Both years and dollars seem to be an issue here. Still, both sides here don't seem to be so far apart that they can't get there. This one mostly seems to be a lack of urgency on the part of either party. The Bulls know that no one is signing Giddey to an offer sheet. Giddey feels strongly enough about his value as a player that he's not pressed to come down from his ask. Expect something to still get done here that sees Giddey in Chicago long term. All right. And so, look, I thought that this is even more interesting because keyword out of this one is it seems to be a lack of urgency. And just talking about the fact that, yes, I mean, nobody has offered Josh Giddey an offer sheet. And so the Bulls certainly aren't going to, go ahead and bid against themselves. They can, wait things out. And with Josh Giddey, look, he's still standing firm with his value. And so I totally understand that as well, which is, just kind of going into the fact that this is why this is probably drug out so long. But still, I think that what has been constant amongst all these reports and updates is that everybody expects Josh Giddey and the Chicago Bulls to get something done. And everybody, I think, expects this to be something that is going to be long term. And just going back to today's report here from Brett Siegel, if it's a 3-year deal, I think it's a win-win for both sides. And so with Josh Giddey, he's 22. If it's a 3-year deal, this means that he's going to be 25. And so he's still going to be in his prime. He's still got plenty left there in the tank, and he could be reaching another level. And so for him, if he goes out and he does what he did at the end of last season and continues on like this under a 3-year deal, he is headed to a lofty payday. And for the Chicago Bulls, I think for them, this gives them, I think, a little bit more, of a, I'm going to say kind of a runway, or more of just kind of taking a look at this thing and saying, okay, can we continue to build with, this backcourt and this young court? Because if AK is invested into Josh Giddey and Kobe White, then you have Montes Bazelis. You also have players like Dalen Terry and Julian Phillips to go along with them. You have Noah Asingay. You have Isaac Okoro. Like, you have a young mix of players. And you're going to find out in those 3 years, as you continue to hopefully build, with a plan, if this is something that is going to work. If not, then it's almost like you get a chance to really press the reset button on everything here. And so I think one of the bigger questions I have, that is, if this does become a 3-year deal, is this something where, AK and the front office are going to make this a team option? Are they going to make it a player option? And I say, are they going to make it a team option? Because going back to the last restricted free agency with Patrick Williams, and I know Patrick Williams and Josh Giddey, totally different players. I get that. But just going back to the last thing that they did in negotiations with a restricted free agent, they put on a player option here. And so, is this going to be something where the Bulls can even opt out of that, in this 3-year deal? If, again, this is if, so we're not saying that by any means it's going to be 3 years. This is just a report that's speculating this. But if it does, is it something where the Bulls can opt out of that? And so that also, too, would tell me a little bit more as to what the Bulls' plans might be, and as far as just what they're doing from an evaluation standpoint. But I do think that this could be a win-win on both sides if it is that amount of years. And I also think, too, when you look at this situation and just where it is trending, I think that for Josh Giddey, he's set up to be in a great situation with what he's playing with here, with Montes Bazelis, and then also too Kobe White and these guys like that, being a lead guard. And so I do think that he's going to take off. I think it's a matter now of just getting to that sweet spot. And when you're talking about the sweet spot in the negotiation, it's not going to be something that you necessarily love it, and you don't necessarily dislike it. And so I do like the point that was made up when it says that there is the potential that the Bulls could increase their offer. I do think that that is likely. I think that the Bulls and Josh Giddey maybe come to terms at about 24, 25 million, regardless if it's 3, 4, 5 years. I think that that's probably the sweet spot here, but let's see what happens over the next couple of days. But once again, this article was posted here on ClutchPoints if you want to check this out. And so this is Brett Siegel giving us a little bit of intel as to the likelihood of the years on the deal, also to the likelihood of the resolution, which it seems like August, and also too giving you some speculation from some different agents on the situation. And so you guys let me know in the comments here, does Josh Giddey get more than 3 years on the contract? Also, too, do you think that he's going to get something that's closer to his reported asking price of 30 million? Once again, we continue to keep saying his camp. And so is he right there? And so does he get something along those lines, or is it going to be something that is right there in the middle, that sweet spot at 24, 25 million? Or is it going to be more towards maybe where reportedly the Bulls are at 20 million? So love to hear what your thoughts are. And as we always say, go Bulls, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.